All right, we are now official. This is, and I just sent you in the mail. I sent you the discography of our group. This is meeting number 17. We've had 16
Wow.
meetings, and I also sent you future uh, people, and I've tabulated. I have at least 16 more meetings in mind. And after
Wow.
that, I'm going to say that we have covered the 60s. Of course, um, I'm confessing now, I'm a 12 stepper and I'm also a sponsor for several people. Um, and it's like when you do the 12 steps, as soon as you finish, not as soon as, but after you finish 12 steps, what do? You go back to step one because it's an ongoing process. Because just because you covered it once doesn't mean you've gotten the whole thing. It's just like any kind of ritual, any kind of practice, spiritual practice, a vocational practice. And so just because we will get at our 30-second meeting doesn't mean we have totally covered the 60s. There's still much more to be done. But I'm going to make a brief reading for posterity. I sent it to you, and I sent you the list of future people. In fact, you guys can vote if you want somebody sooner rather than later. Well, we've covered the Beatles, the Stones, the Doors, Hendrix, Joplin, Beach Boys, Jefferson Airplane, Creedence Clearwater, Roy Charles, Smokey Robinson, Motown, women such as the Supremes and Martha Vandellas. And then we had Gladys Knight and the Pips, Marvin Gaye, and today we're doing Otis Redding. Our future will, uh, I, I'm planning on doing Aretha next week. I don't know if I can do Aretha in one session, but I will try. And then I'm thinking of some of the rock people we haven't done yet. The Birds, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Buffalo Springfield, The Who, the Yardbirds, and the Animals. And then there's all our folkies: Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, Joan Baez, Judy Collins, Joni Mitchell. Our pop people: Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Neil Diamond, Mamas and Papas. Our country people: Johnny Cash, Glenn Campbell, Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline, Merle Haggard, Roy Orbison. I mean, what a
Wow.
decade. Can you imagine all these people made their major impact in the 60s?
Wow. Amazing.
And Bill, if you'd like to repeat what you said, because you had a very telling comment about what made the 60s so unique.
Sure. This is probably remembering back to a history class, probably, I don't know, maybe in high school, where we were told about how a new generation of artists comes along, whether it be music, whether it be painting, and they react against the current style and come up with something new and different. In music, you have somebody like John Cage. In arts, maybe the surrealists, for example.
Mhm.
And in the 60s in music, we had that happening, but instead of just rejecting what was already there, which they did in a way, but they took a lot of threads of what was already happening in country music, in bluegrass, and in
Blues.
gospel, spiritual, folk music, rock, and they blended it together in a whole bunch of different fusions, and that gave it added strength, I think, and is part of what makes the 60s music so enduring.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I saw this thing on the internet that blipped through, but it showed the Dean Martin show where Keith Richards was on there along with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. And Keith
Okay.
was sitting there with his guitar, and they'd interviewed everybody, and Frank sang and all that stuff. And then Frank looked like he had a real attitude toward Keith, and he asked him no, no, he said something about, you know, the 60s music, all this stuff, this rock stuff. It's like people who can barely play guitar, and it's just a bunch of noise. And he actually, saying these kind of things, and Keith Richards didn't get no response, just pleasant, just. And then when it came to be his turn, he said, "Mr. Sinatra, um, my dad taught me how to play guitar when I was, and I think it started at 7 years old. And can I just tell you that the very first song he ever taught me was one of yours?" And Frank just kind of looked at him, like stared blankly, and he said, "The name of the song was called Fly Me to the Moon." And my dad said that I had to learn some of the songs from those classic songs as a bass, bass for the music I was doing, because everything came from that. And all you're doing is building upon it. And Frank had the weirdest look on his face, like, huh? And then what you just said, Bill, it puts it more in perspective, because I'm paraphrasing, mind you, and I didn't get everything that was down, but you just paraphrased what actually occurred on that show. And I think you're
Huh.
right. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Very cool.
And you know what's funny? I'm looking at those two. Yeah, they're again. I read the breadth of the 60s artists, and I include Elvis and Neil Diamond and some of the pop people as well. But something that Keith and Frank they both were fans of the blues. Now, if it was Frank Sinatra
Uh-huh.
Blues in the Night, or
Uh-huh.
the chord to, I mean, it's still very much it's a jazzy blues, but then again, blues is a root that is uh, home, the basis, like you were saying, of so many styles of rock
Yes.
and even gospel, uh, like you were talking about. What was that woman guitarist that you were really?
Rosetta Thorpe.
Yes, and
Rosanna.
I researched her, and she, some people took gospel music and put it into blues. Some people did blues music and put it into gospel. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's like all this stuff is meant to be shared. You put it in a box, but it's all uh, contiguous. It all butts up. And the '60s was a unique era. Uh, One of the things is that almost all the '60s acts paid homage to the people that came before them. And
Yeah.
so much of today's music, I get the sense that people are paying homage to their electronics, and they're thinking that they're reinventing the wheel. Now, I'm not there in the
Yeah.
studio with them. I'm not in their minds, and maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Uh, there's been some acts. What was her name? Um, the soul singer that did video. Um, Anyways, her album, she sings a song dedicating the song to 14 singers from Billie Holiday on out. Uh, and just as that she's paying homage that she wouldn't be doing what she does if it hadn't been for these people that.
Ah, okay. Yeah. That would be, yeah,
Mhm.
I've seen somebody do something like that, but and I appreciated that, because it's right. It's a right thing to do, with the whole a generational thing, and the roots of where all these songs came from. And by the time you get back to there, so much of that actually, see, this is where so much of it translates back to hymns and gospel and and all that. And And then what I saw was seeing happening in some of this stuff is like there would be a gospel or a hymn, and somebody would find that, and let's say outside that public domain because it's so old or whatever, and then they would rewrite something part of it and then copyright it as something new, and then redo that song or whatever. And that always kind of bugs me because it doesn't pay homage to where it really came from. You got to find look at the roots of all of it.
Well, there's the obvious and the not so obvious. I mean, there's even Bob Dylan, a lot of his early songs, the melodies were right out of the American folk tradition. Because remember,
Yeah.
when I was in
Okay.
college and I was uh, studying, I was even in graduate school studying dodecaphonic and 12-tone music, uh, very advanced composition. I was hanging out in the folklore department and I was studying the history of American folk music and uh, Alan Lomax and those field recordings. And uh, there's so yeah, there is so much that to draw from. And that era, that was a draw. And hopefully, if young people eventually discover what we're doing, maybe we can inspire them to do some research. I bet you some of them are doing it. It's
Hope
it
so.
it may be more the industry that is filtering out some of the worthy efforts. It's
Mm,
something that Gail talks about a lot. I hope
yeah.
it shows up. But anyway, uh, that is true. There's a plenty of stuff happening in the nightclubs in different areas. Well, anyway, we're talking about see the 60s were I'm learning by doing this workshop or this these meetings because the 60s I'm learning these are my heroes. These are the I'm paying homage to them. And it's what has made me as strong a musician uh, as I am, moderately strong, uh, at the age of 79 and a couple months shy of 80. But anyway, let's get on to the subject at hand for today. And this is one of my favorite. I love soul music. I always have. And perhaps the best soul singer of all time, and he only lived to be 26 years old. He didn't even make the 27 club with
Oh my.
Janis Joplin and um, Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison. He only lived to be 26. Was killed in a plane crash. Uh, Otis Redding.
Wow.
And uh, I have four of his songs that we're going to listen to. And maybe because we're only doing four songs, maybe we'll have some time to wing some stuff towards the end. You never know where our discussion will go.
Mhm.
Uh, so let's start one of his first songs, which we all know by the cover that Aretha Franklin did. But he wrote it, and he did it first.